Hello friends! In this highly requested video, I will be comparing several brands of masking fluid in a bottle. I used each of these in at least one painting. Some of them I have been using for years and my recommendations come from my own personal preference and experience. Stay tuned until the end of the video as I'll be doing a giveaway because I don't want these lovely bottles to go to waste. Let's get to it! In my last video, I talked a lot about masking fluid in general, and if you're not familiar with it, I'm sure that my 10 tips and tricks will help you achieve the best results with it. I will link that video down below for you. Now I want to be more specific and show you a few bottles that I bought to see if there is a large difference in quality, but mainly I was interested to see if some masking fluids are more reliable and easier to work with than others. Masking fluid number 1 is this blue drawing gun by Pebeo. With this one I have the most experience as I have been using it for about 5 years both in personal works and with people attending my watercolor workshops. However, I need to get something off my chest here. We can compare brands all we want, but if you are someone who only has access to a small art supply store, or if you need to purchase 15 bottles for the most affordable price, then you're going to get what's available. And Pebeo products are widely available in Slovakia and very cheap. This 45ml bottle costs less than 3 euros and it always gets the job done. With that being said, this is my go-to convenience masking fluid. I buy a lot of it and we spend a lot of it during events. This masking fluid is light blue in color and is quite watery, which is what I prefer because it's easier to paint a thin line with. Blue color can be helpful when you place the masking fluid on a white surface because you can see the drawing clearly, but then it can distract your color choices. You always see blue on your paper and that can influence how you choose the rest of your colors because it's very hard to imagine that what's blue now will become white after you remove it from your paper. And that, in my opinion, is not the most practical thing. Overall, Pebeo has a reliable drawing gum that is easy to apply and with proper storage can last a long time and also doesn't break the budget, but the blue color is something to rethink. Masking fluid number 2 is also a blue drawing gun by Campus. It is sold locally and I didn't find it on Amazon or Jackson's Art Supplies. It costs about 5 euros here and resembles the Pebeo drawing gum a lot in both consistency and reliability. I used it in this painting of a red-haired girl and it performed very well. Even painted over watercolor layers and I did not have issues with removing nor paper tearing. I still won't be purchasing this one again simply because it's similar quality than Pebeo, yet it's more expensive and harder to get. This tiny bottle of masking fluid is our third testee. It's made in Poland and also couldn't find it on Amazon or Jackson's. I got it locally for a surprising price of €1.70, but the bottle contains only 20 milliliters of masking fluid. I think if you aren't using this daily, this might be a perfect amount of masking fluid actually. This one is white in color and I used it for a painting of a girl with the lace. I also have this one on Patreon in real time showing the entire masking process. The fluid has slightly thicker consistency than previous ones, but it was still okay for painting details with it. What I noticed, however, is how fast it dried. I had to work really quickly if I wanted a consistent pattern. White fluids are harder to see on a white paper while masking, but this one has a yellow tint to it, so that made this aspect less problematic. Lastly, removal was not hard at all, no paper ripping, and the lace turned out really nice. I would recommend this masking fluid if you can get your hands on it, because this quality is really nice for such a low price. Schmincke masking fluid blue color. I tested 2 masking fluids from this brand and they're supposed to be the same with only color being different, but my experience with both was not similar at all. This blue one I use in a painting of my stylized portrait, painted in on top of watercolor layer, and the thickness surprised me. It was a thick blue medium that took ages to paint on because thick paint doesn't spread easily, especially on a cold-pressed surface. Because of the thickness, I was unable to paint a thinner coat of it and then I couldn't continue painting until the next day because it took its time to dry. All in all, this masking fluid wouldn't budge even when I painted 10 watercolor layers over it. It really stayed in its place, bulletproof protection, which is nice. But then, because it was holding so strong, removing it wasn't so easy and it took a while. I really had to work for it. This masking fluid did not roll together while removing and kept dripping if I wanted to peel a block of it. So yeah, I said to myself, this one really made me sweat and it was probably the worst that I've tried. As for the blue color, it's not for me, as I mentioned previously, and the Schmincke masking fluid was the strongest blue color of masking fluids I've seen. But let's jump to fifth bottle, which was by the same brand Schmincke and supposedly the same type, only this one was colorless. This fluid was white when wet and then dried into a beautiful transparent film. I can't explain how these two masking fluids can be so different, but I would highly recommend the second bottle to anyone. It was slightly thicker than Pebeo or Campus, but I still didn't have the problems to paint details with it like I did with the previous version. I used it for this painting in my sketchbook and also on top of already painted watercolor layers, so I was not masking white paper but something that was already colored. What was amazing is how this fluid helped me see exactly the color and texture that was masked underneath. Since this painting was full of different colors and textures, it would have been difficult for me to imagine what those masked areas look like in the end, and transparent masking fluid is something that really helps you with this. Removal was tougher than what I'm used with Pebeo, but it was manageable, not nearly the experience that I had with the blue version. Both bottles of Schmincke fluid cost about €4 if I buy them locally here in Slovakia, and Jackson's Art Supplies have them for about €6. On Amazon, however, I only saw them for an insane price of €21. I don't think that's worth it, and if you want to try this one out and you can't get this small 20ml bottle for less than €6, then I would just search for another brand. Next testy is Sennelier masking fluid. I only got it as a 75ml bottle and I don't know if they make smaller bottles. It costs about €8 locally, and on Amazon I found them for about €20, which is again a large difference in price. This fluid is neither colored nor white. It is milky while wet with a greenish tint and dries into a transparent, slightly greenish film that allows you to see what's beneath it to some degree, just like with the previous masking fluid. It is a thin fluid that allows for thinner or thicker application, whatever you decide, and sticks to the paper so well that I never had issues with what the drawing looks like after I remove it. I did use it in more than one painting and I continue using this. This is my hot favorite and I would give it 5 out of 5 stars. What's absolute best is how enjoyable the removal is. This masking fluid can be peeled off as one piece, is very flexible, and the peel off is simply very satisfying. I love to work with it, highly recommend. I'm keeping this one and will continue using it. Last and seventh testy is Winsor Newton masking fluid. Luckily, this one is widely available and a 75ml bottle can be found for about €8 on Jackson's and about €13 on Amazon. It might be also available in your local art supply store because this brand it distributes worldwide. I bought the colorless version, which is milky white while wet and then dries into a transparent film, very similar to the Schmincke fluid. But this one has thin consistency, it is easy to apply and holds the shape of your drawing very well. It was a little harder to remove than Sennelier and was holding onto the paper quite strongly, but I still like to work with this so much. I used it for this colorful portrait and the result was more than satisfactory. I'm including this bottle in a giveaway too, just because having 75ml bottle of Sennelier, I can't possibly use it all up within a year before it spoils, but otherwise I would have kept it because this one was a real treat to work with as well. So there you have it, that's my experience with these 7 bottles and it took me ages to test it all out, so my apologies if you had to wait for this video for way too long. As I said, these bottles would come to waste in my studio and I'll be keeping the Sennelier and the Renesans, since that one was only 20ml and I already almost used it up by now. But I still have 5 bottles of masking fluid for this giveaway. Let's see what we have. It's Pebeo, then Campus, blue and transparent Schmincke fluid, so that's 2 bottles, and lastly the Winsor Newton masking fluid. A disclaimer, I opened these bottles and used each of them once, but I still hope they will help some of you to have fun with your watercolor painting. Information on how to enter the giveaway are down below in a pinned comment as well as in the description. There is a link and you can enter until the end of May 2022. In June, I'll be sending 5 bottles to 5 winners along a nice handmade postcard. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like it and subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll see you in just a few days. Bye!